concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the stream. Uh-oh, wait a second. I finished watching this flight. My audio sounds way too loud. Oh, Windows. Yeah, Windows. Why don't you stop changing my volume from my microphone, Windows? Thank you. This is sort of Steel Squad, Mike Bergman. We'll go ahead and let this flight finish. It's almost done. In fact, I think it's done. I'm bringing it in right now. Yeah, we'll let this flight finish. This is sort of Steel Squad. It started out as Steel Squad, and then the ESC blew up, and then I put a FetTech ESC on it. Why doesn't Joshua ever straighten his camera before he starts the stream? I don't know. I think I do, but there you go. Then I put the FetTech ESC on it because the KISS ESC blew up, and I thought, well, as long as I'm doing that, I might as well put a FetTech flight controller on it. And then I thought, as long as I'm doing that, why I don't want to deal with Mr. Seal's OSD setup is just so annoying. I hate standalone OSD boards. Sorry, I just do. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll just put DJI on it because the FetTech flight controller can work with the DJI OSD. And then so it's the Apex frame, and it is Steel's motors. And I guess Steel is also using the FetTech flight controller in ESC now, but it is not Steel's PIDs. It's not Steel's rates. And I guess he's also using DJI. So technically, technically there you go. So we're close. It would be Steel's quad if I had Steel's PIDs on it, I guess. But I didn't feel comfortable copying his KISS PIDs over to this build because his PIDs are so on the edge that I didn't want to smoke anything. Crunk says no prop wash in that flight that I saw. Crunk, to be fair, you would need to hear the audio, right? I mean, You can't always tell. I will say that I put the FetTech on there. I put the Crunked Golden preset on there because, again, I looked through the KISS presets, and there is a Mr. Steel PID preset in the KISS configurator, but it's from like 2017, and I wasn't sure if it was up to date. I thought, I'm not sure I'm going to trust that. So I put the Crunked Golden starting point, which is a good but not like tuned to the edge PIDs. And I thought that I was not like super impressed. Like when I flew Mr. Steele's PIDs on his quad, I thought, wow, this thing, there's just no prop wash anywhere in it. I mean, if you really tried, you could get it. Hold on. Itch. Without Mr. Steele's PIDs, without being tuned, I thought it was okay. It was good. It didn't have that sort of magic. Everybody is like, oh, if you tell, I'm too nice a guy to do this to you. But every so often I wonder if I were to put a flight up and say that it was KISS, but I'm lying and actually it's Betaflight, how many people would be like, oh, you could really tell it's KISS. Oh, it's so good. I'm a little skeptical that I think as Mark Spatz, UAV Tech, has demonstrated, it is as much about the tune as it is about the flight controller. Mark Spatz tuned he did a KISS/Betaflight 4.3 comparison, and he tuned both of them as good as he could. And I watched that video, and his KISS quad, I thought it was flying pretty bad. Like, it had a lot of prop wash. And people in the comments were like, come on, Mark, you can do better. We know KISS can do better. And it's really interesting. What a topic to start the live stream on. Hey, welcome everybody. It's a pretty deep topic to start the live stream on. We better start with the White Claw. Oh yeah. I thought I was out of White Claw, but I found one in the back of my fridge. Ruby grapefruit too. Crunked, yeah. Oh, but I apologize for burping. So unprofessional of me. Really, oh my God. Crunk says his KISS quad doesn't fly anywhere near as well as any of my KISS quads. And I thought, Mark tunes, he tunes to the black box. He tunes to try to make the set point line overlap with the gyro line. That's more or less what he does. That's his definition of a good tune. And that means that, like, some of us, if we wanted to tune a quad to fly really well, we would try to get rid of the prop wash oscillation first. And if it meant that there was a tiny bit of I-term windup when we did a flip or a roll, or a tiny bit of bounce back that we had to compensate for with the sticks, that would be fine. And most people would see that quad with no prop wash oscillation, and they would go, oh, that is a well-tuned quad. But if you were to look at the black box, you might see that actually the step response is not that great. And the pilot is kind of dealing with kind of a sloppy quad. So I think when you tune a quad, one way to approach it is to try to reduce the step response as much as possible, to try to make the gyro line and the set point line overlap as much as possible. And the net result may be that you have a quad that flies really well objectively, but maybe has a little more prop wash. I feel like maybe that's what happened to Mark Spatz. That there is no doubt that Mark can tune anything. He could tune anything. So if Mark's KISS quad had prop wash, and you said to yourself, oh, we know KISS can fly better than that, it has to mean that Mark secretly hates KISS and he had it out for KISS. No, that's what some people are accusing him of. I don't think it's true. Mark is a very analytical guy. He is an objective guy. He's one of the most objective people I know. And that gets him some hate sometimes because he doesn't buy into the hype. And sometimes I think he sets out to kind of take the wind out of something that's getting hyped. But I think he just was tuning his KISS quad in a different direction. And it's impossible to get everything you want. So what are you going to give up? And he gave up prop wash handling, which is obvious to anybody watching the video. Whereas if you give up a little bit of delay or a little bit of I-term windup, the pilot will feel it, but the person watching the video won't see it. So I would say, did I put my rates on the KISS quad? Yeah, Crunked, in that video that you just saw was my rates, at least as close as I could get. I used a tool to convert the rates. They were close, but at full stick deflection, it felt like the rates went zoop, like at up to about 85% stick travel, everything felt good. And then somewhere between 85 and 95%, it went too high and was too snappy. But I played with it. So, UAV Tech makes his money off of Betaflight. What does he make his money, Mark A? What does he make his money? How does Mark Spatz make money off of Betaflight? Explain that to me. He has a Patreon. Where else does he make money? Anyway. Crunked Blunty just told me that I should absolutely try your... I got to go back and look at what he said. He said, try Kiss's 4.6i WOW preset on the latest flight controller. He said, I'm really impressed. So it sounds like I need to give that a try. Anyway. But that was some fun flying. I will say, when I flew Mr. Steele's quad, it was a ready to fly designed by him. It wasn't literally one of his quads, for the record. When I flew his quad, you can watch my review. It's on my channel. I was like, you know what? There's something special here. This is a very good flying quad. It may not be worth the money they're asking for it necessarily, but it is absolutely something special. When I flew the FetTech flight controller in ESC with the DJI Cadix Vista, with the steel motors, and just a sort of a generic PID tune, I was like, yeah, it didn't like blow me away. And I think it shows that, you know, there's the potential of the hardware is there, but that without a good PID tune, a KISS flight controller can feel just as, it's okay, as anything. So that's my opinion. Ricky Harry says, I'm just getting FPV. Do you have a 2021 build guide? Ricky, I have 2 builds I've put out so far. I have my Get FPV. I have my Get FPV beginner build. Xylo 5-inch freestyle drone bundle. This is the analog version. There's also a DJI version if you're interested in that. It's a little more expensive. And I have the not FPV Cycle, FPV Crate. I have the Luminaire QAVS. I did a build tutorial for this one. I would say either of those is a great 2021 build tutorial that you could dive right into. Jolly Monster FPV says, you know that trick that you have where you put all of your aux modes on one channel? Can you do that with KISS? No, you cannot. Jolly Monster, KISS is designed to be simple and easier to set up, and that means that they take away some functionality in order to make it simple. So when you set up aux modes on KISS, you can set the aux mode to be high, middle, low, middle high, middle low, and that's it. You can't do the exact setup that I do in Betaflight where you can overlap the channels and have all of your aux modes on one channel. What t-shirt am I wearing? Asks Haxed. Haxed, this is the Quad Box t-shirt from February. It's for Valentine's Day. It's a heart. The art was done, I'm 99% sure it was done by Revert FPV. It looks like his style. I don't know for 100% that he did it, but I wager. And it's available store.rotoriot.com if you want to pick it up. Yeah. Welcome to the stream, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad to be back. In case you're wondering, in case you missed it, I was not here yesterday because I was in Asheville, North Carolina with some wonderful people to do the very first test screening of the Flow State, the FPV drone documentary. That is the film, in case you haven't heard. That's a film that I'm working on producing with James Christensen. James is doing most of the work. I'm I'm mostly just putting up money, paying for things. And I'm in the film. And occasionally I watch the film and I go, I think this part was a little too long. And then I'm like, oh my God, who am I to give editing suggestions? Anyway, but there you go. That's what we're doing. It was the first test screening. It will be shown at Rotor Riot Rampage. So the way it works is it's going to be submitted to film festivals. And then after it wins some prizes at film festivals, which clearly it will, we're going to try and get it onto a streaming service like a Netflix or an Amazon Prime. That's the ultimate goal, is to get people watching a documentary about FPV, normal people. And in order to submit it to the festivals, there can't have been a public screening. The festivals want like first dibs on it. So we're doing private screenings. One will be at Rotor Riot Rampage. If you're coming to Rampage, we're going to screen the film there. And if you're going to International Open, I believe we're also doing a screening at International Open. I'm not 100% sure if it'll be the whole film or just segments of the film, but there will be some parts of it there. You can see it. I'm super psyched about it. I'm really, I would also like to do a screening, like a private screening, like in Atlanta, rent a theater or something, and do a private, invitation only. That means we're not going to sell tickets, but if you're a member of the FPV community, you can come, but it's a private screening. It's not a public screening. It's very important. So, I'm super psyched about that. But I'm back tonight, and you're here with me. And in case you're new here, here's what we got going on. This is my main screen right here. I'll be looking at your questions right here. Lucid Vax, how do you ask a question? Just like that. Just like that, Lucid Vax. That was it. That was your question. Lucid Vax, that was it. That was your one chance. I would say to my father, hey, Dad, can I ask you a question? And he would say, yep, you just did. And I would say, can I ask you 2 questions? He would say, yep, that was the second one. Screw you, Dad. Sync Happens 86. I'm not on IMDb yet. Not yet. Hopefully after the film goes out, I will be on IMDb as executive producer of this film and star. I mean, hell yeah. So, you guys are welcome to ask your questions here in the YouTube chat. If you want to make sure I get your question, you want to make absolutely sure I get your question, the way to do it is to hit that $, leave a super chat, cost you a couple bucks, and then your question gets called out to the side, and then I'll get to it in a minute, eventually. I would also like to say hello to these beautiful people over here on the right. These people are my patrons, and they're over in my Discord server. Welcome to the live stream, patrons. And I'll be paying attention to the things they say. If you want to join them, you can join my Patreon for a couple dollars a month, as little as $2 a month or more. If you feel like I've earned it, there's a link down in the video description to my Patreon. You join the Patreon, you get access to the Discord, and then you can hang out with these beautiful people. And, have a few minutes to leave. Join us. I have no idea what I'm seeing. Now they get to post things on the stream for just a minute. Thank you for not posting GIFs that will violate community guidelines. Floppy Props in the YouTube chat has a great question. Is it better to get the Newbie Drone Savage B1S on Nitro Nectar or 2S on 2 Nitro Nectars? Floppy Props, one thing I will say is there was a post on Facebook recently. If you decide to put the Savage B on 2S, do not use an XT30 connector, because the XT30 connector has such low resistance that the voltage spikes kill the flight controller. There was a post on Facebook basically saying don't do this. If you decide to run the Savage B on 2S, make sure you're using 2 batteries with a series adapter. As for whether, I haven't flown the Savage B on 2S, so I can't say for sure. It stands to reason that a 2S would fly better than a 1S, even though you've got a little extra weight from the battery. I only flew the 1S, though. I have no idea. Elias, the mighty messenger of Lord Yahshua. Well, it's a mighty nice title there, Elias. Josh, come on. You're making lots of money, dude. I know you say that. Make sure we get that question. But, you know, some of us just don't have it. Feel for me and one of them. And I bought your $35 question for you. Did you buy a 30? What did you? I don't understand that statement. I answer lots of free questions, for sure. But I also, many questions go by and I don't see them. There's nothing you can do about that. D Reckless says in the Discord, in your videos, I notice you don't have an analog module on your DJI goggles. Is there a major reason not to do so? D Reckless, the reason I don't have an analog module on my goggles is very simple. I put the Lumineer Axie HD on there, and they use the front. They stick to the front of the goggles. In order to do that, I had to take off the analog module that I was using, just because it was the BDI digidapter that replaces the front plate. I have a set of Orcas. They're very, very good analog module. There was a time when I had an analog module on my DJIs just to test it out and see how it would work. But if you have a good set of analog goggles, you don't really need to have an analog module on your DJIs. That's my opinion. So that's why I don't have that. Haxed wants to know, do you play video games other than The Sims? Yeah, occasionally, Haxed. Like, let's look at my Steam account. Do I play video games? I play a lot of games that I play because my son plays them, and I want to play with him. So some of these, let's see what is currently installed. Full screen. Right now, we've got Among Us, of course, which I play. I stream that sometimes on weekends. See, Borderlands 3, I was playing that with my son. Haven't played that in a while. We can uninstall that. What else? DCL, of course. Deep Rock Galactic, that's a really fun game. If you could just look it up, it's really fun. I haven't played that in a while. I started playing that with my son, then he got bored of it, and I was like, no, it's so good. Keep playing it. Okay, Fallout 76, please don't judge me. I was playing that with my son. Please don't judge him. He's young. He doesn't know any better. He liked Fallout 76 okay. Far Cry 5, I also played that with him. What games do I play? Which of these games are my games that I like to play? All of these games are from my son. Cuphead, that's a fun one. Never did beat it. The Curious Expedition, very fun. Let's see. I haven't played it in a while. You can see it's not installed, but I almost finished Doom 2016. I'm playing Metro Exodus now. We tried to play Space Hulk Deathwing and just kept dying. I don't think we were doing it right. I don't know what you're supposed to do in that game, but it was not. We were not doing it. I like The Division a lot. This is a fun little game. I know people get down on this game and say it's really. I just think it's really fun to get in there and have a couple gunfights. Yeah, those are some games I play, at least on PC. Trokil RC says, I somehow was expecting more anime dating sims. Destiny 2, again, sorry Ghost Branch, that was one that I played with my son, but he got bored with it, and then we don't play it anymore. So. Well, who doesn't like White Claw? Far Cry 5 is pretty fun. Yeah, it's pretty fun multiplayer. It is. It's a nice little shooter. Anyway. I'm playing Metro Exodus. I really like the Metro series. I've read all of those books. I don't read a lot of books these days, but I've read all of the Metro books. They are, man, I'll tell you what. I don't know what it is with Russians and dystopian sci-fi. Like, I'm not going to make any broad, sweeping generalizations about Russians and Russian culture that could be seen as insensitive, but my God, Russians can write dystopian sci-fi like frickin' nobody else. Metro System's amazing. The Metro series is amazing. All right. Elias says, I'm answering your question, Elias. My mother burned up, and I have to replace it. I want to know if I have to solder the wires from the replacement that I have on middle wire to obviously middle and left. I think Elias is translating his questions, and I'm sorry the translation is not coming through. Does it matter whether I get the left and the right wire right? In other words, does the middle wire have to be obviously right in the middle? The order of the wires that you solder to the ESC controls which direction the motor spins. If you get the order wrong, you can just swap two wires, and the motor will spin the other direction. Joey W., I have not played Doom Eternal, only Doom 2016. I liked Doom 2016 a lot. It's a really good shooter. The way that they have forced you to play by their rules. I'm not saying anything about Doom 2016 that hasn't been said by far better game reviewers than me, but the way that they wanted the game to be a game where you had to keep moving and you had to keep shooting. You couldn't just like hide behind a rock and like snipe people. And so the way that they tie ammo drops and armor drops, you get more ammo, you get more health, you get more armor by killing demons. It forces you to keep playing and keep moving and keep sort of surfing this wave of nearly being dead. And if you stop, then you're dead. So you have to just keep going, and it just really makes for a great gameplay. It's an amazing game. If you like shooters, it's an amazing game. Anyway, let's take some super chats, and let's get back to talking about FPV, shall we? Thank you for the super chat. I found this $5 on the ground earlier. The birds told me you dropped it. Thank you for the super chat. Daniel Carroll, thank you for a $5 super chat. Shout out to Crunk's Tuning Seals. He put my Banggood on rails. Yeah, everyone seems to agree that Crunk is an amazing tuner. I had somebody reach out to me and say that they were just super impressed with his tuning abilities. And that's really cool. Everybody seems to agree that he does a great job. Okay. Okay. Elias, right? You're funny. Lol. Okay. Mother, not mother. Right? Haha. Jokester. Okay. Voice to text. You know, holidays. How is it looking? How long it took me to get to say how it is. I say nothing about holiday. I mean, I don't want to make fun of Elias. He's using voice to text. If I make fun of him, it's going to turn out like he has a disability. He has no arms. He's using voice to text because of his disability. And then if I make fun of him for being awkward in the chat, then I'm going to be an asshole. So I'm not going to do that. But it is a little hard. I'm having trouble communicating with you. So whatever's happening isn't working well. Apologize for that. I hope we got you the answer that you needed, though. Sounds like we did. Yeah, just changes the direction of the motors. Sounds like we did get the answer. That's the end of the day. That's the answer at the end of the day. Jason Carter, thanks for a $5 super chat. I just learned about the FreeSky Tandem X20 HD. Your thoughts on FreeSky doing digital video transmission? Let's take a look at that. The FreeSky Tandem X20 HD. What even is that? In case you don't know, let's go take a look. The FreeSky Tandem X20. Holy Christ! Look at this frickin' radio, first of all. My God, FreeSky makes a good-looking radio. And it's only $376, which... I mean, you know, compare that to like a Jetty radio or a Futaba radio. You pay $1,000 for this freaking thing. like a frickin' steel commander driving a battle mech with this thing. Jesus. What is this? Are those... So, like, okay. This is a beautiful radio, no doubt. Your girlfriend just spit her drink out, Haxed. What did I say? Which joke did I made her spit her drink out? Now, this is not going to be the controller for everybody. Many people will consider it to be too heavy, too complicated, more switches than they really need. Okay, that's fine. For me, I'm not that super interested in this controller because it doesn't run OpenTX. Now, will it run OpenTX? After it gets released, will someone hack OpenTX onto it? Maybe. And at that point, perhaps it will be a good controller that worthy of my interest. But FreeSky is making their own operating system, ETH-OS. I have no idea if it's good or if it's bad, but it's not OpenTX, and I am just not interested in controllers that don't run OpenTX. OpenTX is where FPV is at. If you want to set up, if you want to do a tutorial for a controller or anything, all the tutorials have to do with OpenTX, and that's my opinion. So I'm not going to be like rushing to review this. If it ran OpenTX, I might. I'm not going to be, though. Now, the question was, what do you think about FreeSky doing digital video transmission? I don't think that they're doing that. That's my first instinct. FreeSky has never... how do I get this? There we go. Get that centered up. FreeSky has never shown any indication that they want to get into digital video transmission, FPV kind of stuff. I think that there's some kind of mistranslation or something. Like, where do we even see this? Let's see. For 800 by 480 screen. Touch screen. Where does it say that it has video transmission? I've seen that before. No, where is it? HD version includes digital video transmission that can display on screen. What does that mean? What does that mean? 720p, 60 FPS. I don't know, man. What is it? They just dropped this bomb, and they don't say anything more about it. I don't know. Like, has FreeSky invented a 720p digital video system that's built into this radio? That's such a big thing. And I don't think that's true. Where's the video transmitter? Are you telling me that if FreeSky was going to drop a SharkBite competitor, a DJI competitor, it wouldn't just be a little one-line bullet point at the bottom of the page about they would be just blowing up the media. So I think what it must mean, and this is pure speculation. It feels like this just means that it's a 720p screen. So they go up from a 480p screen to a 720p screen. Notice here it says... No, never mind. Yeah, I just think it means that it has an HD screen, a high-resolution screen, instead of a... People think that it means that FreeSky is developing a competitor to SharkBite, and if they were, then they'd be hyping it up a lot more. Maybe it plays DVR back. I don't know. Andy C. goes into it in his review. Anthony Echevarria. What does it say? What do they say? Elias reminds us that he is not disabled. He's just using stupid voice to text. So please do us all a favor and use your thumbs. Anyway. Maybe they're including SharkBite. And it has an HDMI input. That's plausible. Totally plausible. Maybe they've included a SharkBite ground station in the HD version. And it has an HDMI input in the radio. Does the radio have an HDMI input? This may not be the HD version, so we wouldn't be able to see it. Yeah, like, I think that that's more plausible, that it has an HDMI input or something. I don't think that, yeah. Ascetic says, the transmitted video can be displayed on the radio screen or the connected external device via HDMI output. We need to know more. We need to know more. I just don't believe that FreeSky has invented... I don't believe that FreeSky has invented an HD FPV video system to compete with SharkBite and DJI. And then, if they did that, I don't know why they would bury that announcement in a one bullet point at the bottom of the X20 radio. They would be announcing that to the world. So, anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Kaiser Soze, thank you for a $5 super chat. Is the issue with the DJI FPV Goggles V2 resolved yet? No. Regarding being able to bind to the air unit or Vista without the DJI Quad. Kaiser, you need to be aware that most people are not running into this problem. As far as we can tell, what seems to be happening is that there are two different SKUs for the DJI FPV Goggle V2. One of them is intended to be sold with the bundle, with the drone bundle. One of them is intended to be sold individually. And it seems like those have gotten mixed up, and people who bought the individual goggles are getting a kit that was supposed to come with the drone. And when that happens, the goggles can't activate without the drone. Okay. Most people who bought the goggles are not having this problem. If you do buy the goggles and you have this problem, it's going to suck. But there isn't a universal resolution at this time. I made a video last week saying basically everybody needs to bug their vendors to try and get this taken care of because DJI isn't fixing it. But, yeah. The issue is not resolved. Chances are if you buy the Goggle V2, you will not run into the issue. However, if you do run into the issue, you basically, there may not be a workaround. There are some workarounds, so they work for some people, not for other people. Archimedes says the FreeSky Tandem X20 doesn't support Crossfire or Ghost at the moment. Right. Because it's got R9 built in. Why would you want anything else? Yeah, you want to do Crossfire, you want to do Ghost, you want to do Tracer? Tandem X20 doesn't run OpenTX. It's not for you. The other reason I'm skeptical about this digital FPV system from FreeSky is that in the marketing materials, they say it is 0 millisecond latency. Nothing is 0 millisecond latency. If a freaking Fat Shark HD-O has 16 millisecond latency to the screen, just because that's how long it takes to draw the screen. Nothing has 0 millisecond latency. So when they say that it has 0 millisecond latency, my BS detector starts going off. I feel like we're not getting the same story. Huff19 says, we followed your video to work around the activation issue with the Goggle V2, and it worked perfectly. Yep, it works perfectly for some people. I would not hold back on buying the goggles today. If you're ready to buy them, you want to buy them, I would not hold back on buying them today because that there's this chance that you could have the activation issue. It's a small chance. If you do buy them from a store that you know will have your back. Don't buy them from a store that's going to be like, yeah, sorry, you're screwed. If you buy them and you can't activate them, at the very least, you want to be able to go back to the store and say, they won't activate. Please give me another set, and have them take care of you. So, if you can find them in stock anyway, that's the other thing. They're not in stock anywhere anyway, so good luck getting them. Kenny, thank you for a $5 super chat. Flew my first 5-inch today. It was an awesome experience. Your videos helped me so much. Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Kenny. Thomas Glavin says, what's the difference between the V1 and the V2? The V2 work with the DJI FPV drone. That's basically the difference. As far as FPV pilots go, that's the only real meaningful difference. Does the DJI FPV Sim work with an iPad? I believe it works on all iOS devices. Crunked, thank you for a $5 super chat. The 46i WoW Tune works on most quads, but Steel's motors might not love it. It's lower D with the same P's and I's. I was surprised it worked so well. Crunked, if you have an idea for a tune that I should use on this build, I would be glad to try it. I'm sure that you could just kind of rattle something off the top of your head and probably it would fly better than just the generic preset that I'm using now. I'd be very interested to hear what you got, Crunked. I'd be happy to try it. Todd Tube, thank you for a $5 super chat. I need a 4-in-1 ESC with a 5-volt Beck for an iNet build. Any recommendation? Ooh, those are not as common as they once were. Does the Hobby Wing have a 5-volt regulator? I think it does. I think there's a 5-volt right there. Do you see that 5? I believe it's a 5-volt. Sorry for that sound. It's not the best sound I've made. I think the Hobby Wing has a 5-volt regulator, and it is a great ESC. 5-volt. No. Anywhere? Yeah, onboard 5-volt Beck. There you go. That's the one. That's the one I would go with. The Hobby Wing 60 amp. This is the micro, by the way. Sorry. This is the micro. It's the 20. Is this a 20 millimeter version? What about the regular? X-Rotor 40 amp, 20 by 20. No, that didn't look like a... No, that's a 30 millimeter. They just call it micro to confuse you. The X-Rotor Micro 60 amp is a very, very good ESC. One of the best. And has a 5-volt out. It also has a 10-volt out. Max Rutherford says, Free Sky is constantly developing new technology, and whether high-definition reception is their new focus, I trust that whatever they develop will be as sincere as their hatred for their own customers. Whew. Ouch. Mr. Z says, what's your plan? Buy the V2 goggle, then hope a third party continues to make transmitters under license? Stop buying DJI, people. Mr. Z, Caddx is... I mean, there's no reason to think that Caddx will stop making the DJI, the Caddx Vista, or whatever they make, the new air unit. I can't decide who is being more rational here. The people who say, of course Caddx is going to keep making DJI, and the people who say, wake up, sheeple, you're going to get screwed. It absolutely is true that DJI has made products in the past and then eventually discontinued them, and people who had them were just out of luck. Like, it would be naive to say, no, they would never do that. But DJI says that they intend to continue making the air unit. Caddx says they intend to continue making the Vista. Everybody I've talked to says that that's the plan. So at some point you have to say, well, am I going to believe that? Or do I think I'm being lied to? And then you spend your money and you take your chances. Yeah. Are there any other HD video feed options outside of DJI? Asks Tom on tape. Fat Shark Shark Bite is the other major one today. Yeah, that's the other major one. What was the quad that UAV Tech tuned? Says Bannister Post. Did you share the tune he did? Yes, it is. The quad that he tuned was the iFlight Sedora SL5E, and the tune should be linked in the video where I compared the tune. Garter Rotor says, what about the problem where you bind back to the FPV drone and lose bind on your air units and vice versa? Garter Rotor, as far as I'm aware, that problem has not been fixed. Yeah, the problem has not been fixed as far as I know. I was not able to replicate that problem, by the way, so I'm not sure whether I didn't do it right or what. I didn't have that problem, but I just did a basic test. Prairie Mac FPV, thank you for a $3 super chat. Kakute F7 Mini V3, new flash, now not seeing gyro. Prairie Mac, the #1 reason to have no gyro after you flash is you flashed the wrong target for the flight controller. When you went into the configurator and in that pull-down list, you selected your flight controller type. You picked the wrong one. Like maybe you picked the Kakute F7 and the 30 millimeter board has oh my goodness, excuse me, has a different target than the Mini. I'm not sure. Also, after you power cycle the board after flashing, you must apply custom defaults. And that's necessary in order for everything to work. Here's an interesting piece of speculation about this new FreeSky digital FPV system, supposedly built into the X20. You know, SharkBite is based on chips made by a company called Divimath. And basically, Divimath makes the SharkBite system, and then Fat Shark sells it. I'm not even sure that it's manufactured in Fat Shark's factory, although I'm not sure. I don't actually know that for sure. But as far as I know, Fat Shark doesn't have an exclusive arrangement with Divimath, and that was advertised way back when as a potential benefit of this system, that if you didn't like Fat Shark's offering, you could potentially buy a system made by somebody else, and they would be cross-compatible because they're all using the Divimath chips. What if FreeSky has basically built a SharkBite receiver, a Divimath receiver, into the X20? That's plausible. I feel that, I mean, I'm not saying that's happened. I think it's more likely that there's some BS going on. But that's plausible because Divimath could absolutely sell chips to FreeSky. And in that case, FreeSky wouldn't have to completely invent this system, which I would be skeptical that they would be able to do economically. They could just integrate a pre-existing solution. That would be very interesting if it was a SharkBite compatible video receiver built into this radio. But if that was true, why would they not just say that? Why would they not just say that? Are there flight controllers with built-in barometers? Yes, absolutely, Haxed. Yep, there totally are flight controllers with built-in barometers. In fact, that's the preferred way to do it, I think. James Mullenix, thanks for a $20 super chat. I'm about to install Crossfire Nano and Race Day Quad's 880 GPS into my first quad, as well as a Tyrannus QX7 mod. Any quick tips to a newbie? James Mullenix, I have a video. TBS Crossfire Complete Setup Guide. Watch this first. I'm going to put the link in the chat. And I would definitely suggest you... Nope, wrong James. James Mullenix. I would definitely suggest you check that out. As far as the GPS goes, I have a GPS setup guide as well. I'll link you to that. The way that I set up GPS rescue configuration, I'll give you a link to that as well. And thank you for your $20 super chat. Dagnabbit. There we go. Boom. There we go. Gregory Carr says, I'm looking to try KISS. What's the best way to get started? Bind and fly or build? Gregory Carr, there aren't a lot of bind and fly KISS builds right now. So I think building is going to be where you're going to go. I would say check out like rotorbuilds.com and find somebody else's KISS build or FetTech build and copy it. That's what I would do. Neek FPV says, is there any way to overwrite the onboard data flash black box log so you always have your most recent flight log? No, Neek FPV. Erasing a data flash chip is actually fairly time consuming. It is impossible to erase the chip fast enough to be able to implement like a FIFO queue where you always have the last log that you did. It is not possible to do that. Crunked points out, if you want a pre-build KISS quad, he'll build one for you. Fair enough. Craig Shell, thank you for a $5 super chat. Is there a procedure to check the health of a motor with a multimeter? Craig, yes and no. If you have a very, very sensitive device that can measure down in the micro ohms, then you can measure the resistance of the motor coil. And the resistance of the motor coil will tell you if there's damage to the windings. But a typical multimeter can't measure down in the micro ohms, and it just can't measure low enough to detect that. If you have an inductance function to measure I think it's in Henrys is the unit for inductance. You can measure the inductance of the motor, and that's another way you could tell. If you compare a known good motor to a suspect bad motor, you measure the inductance, and if the inductance of the bad motor is way off, that confirms that it's messed up. The only other way to check the health of a motor with a multimeter is, let's see if I can find this video I made yeah, there we go. So if you hook a multimeter up to a motor in AC mode and spin the motor with a drill, the motor will act like a generator and will generate a certain number of volts. And if you measure, you have to be able to spin the drill at a constant speed, unfortunately. But if you measure a significantly different voltage when spinning the motor at a constant speed, that'll be an indication that the motor is bad. Now, the good thing about this is that any multimeter can measure AC volts and can run this test, but you do need to be able to spin at a constant speed, so it's a little bit tricky to get that right. John Solo points out, does the price tag of the X20 correlate with something that would have an HD receiver in it? Looks like it'd be underpriced. I agree, John. The SharkBite ground station is it $200? How much is it? I think it's a few $100s for sure. Let's look it up. The SharkBite ground station is... No, more. Wow. Oh, that's the bundle. The ground station alone is $250. The FreeSky X20 radio is $360. So it seems unlikely that they've built like a SharkBite receiver into that. Yeah, and that's another reason that just feels like there's some BS going on here. Because at that price, it's hard to believe that you could spend $350 on a digital HD system by itself. So how are you going to give this premium controller and this FPV system that no one's ever heard of at that price? Seems questionable. Cool FPV says the best way to check if a motor's bad is to replace it. Ha! Yeah, I actually kind of agree. You replace the motor. If that fixes the problem, you know the motor was bad. Where are we going here? Daniel Carroll says, thank you for a $5 super chat. Daniel, I've got some bad pixels in the sensor of my DJI camera. Should I buy a replacement or for 50% markup on eBay, or will DJI satisfy that need soon? I don't know the answer to that, Daniel. If you think you have bad pixels, then you should contact DJI support and they'll tell you what to do. Probably they would, I would think they would consider that a warranty issue and they would replace the camera, at which point it's their business to source one. Thank you, Johnny5 says my lighting looks good. Nope, nothing has changed about the lighting. The only thing that's changed is I have a nice haircut because I went to this film screening this weekend and I wanted to look nice. So I look nice, and the color on my shirt, this shirt absolutely pops. So nope, the lights haven't changed. But thank you for complimenting my lighting. Martin Fuchs, thank you for a $10 super chat. How do I know if I can easily combine an ESC from one brand with a flight controller from another with the included connector plugs? Is mixing stacks not a good idea? Martin, mixing stacks is okay, but can be a hassle if you don't know how to tell how to connect the things together, you can assume that all ESCs are going to output motors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and probably VBAT and ground. Now, at that point, they're going to work with most flight controllers, but there are some exceptions. Excuse me. So rude, so unprofessional. Some flight controllers, like the Brain FPV Radix, they want a 5-volt input from the ESC, not a VBAT input. They may have a VBAT input so that you can see VBAT in your OSD, but they don't actually have an onboard voltage regulator that lets them take power from VBAT. At that point, you would need an ESC with a 5-volt regulator. Many ESCs don't have that. And at that point, sticking with the suggested ESC would probably be a good idea. The other kink that can come in is whether the ESC has telemetry and or analog current sense. Now, most 4-in-1 ESCs today have analog current sense. That's just where the market has gone. And most flight controllers today will have an input for analog current sense. So in that sense, probably everything's going to be okay. But you might end up in a situation where you need ESC telemetry, and not all ESCs support that. For example, if you know you're going to be doing an 8S build or a 12S build, your flight controller probably can't take 8S or 12S voltage natively. It'll fry. So you're going to run the flight controller off a regulator. At that point, how do you know what your battery voltage is? Well, the way you do it is you use the ESC telemetry to tell the flight controller what the battery voltage is. The ESC knows the battery voltage. Long story short, you're going to ask yourself whether you need the ESC to give you 5 volts to the flight controller, and you're going to ask whether you need the ESC to give you ESC telemetry to the flight controller. Everything else probably will be fine. If you don't need those two things, basically any ESC probably will work. So, and if all of that sounds like way too much trouble, just buy the ESC that matches the flight controller. Hobbywing flight controller, Hobbywing ESC. Maytech flight controller, Maytech ESC. Bardwell flight controller, Bardwell ESC. You know that they're designed to go together. Tim Burgess wants to know, does return to home on the DJI FPV move when the pilot moves, like taking off on a moving boat? No, I don't think so, Tim. The home point is updated at takeoff. You can manually update the home point in flight through the goggle menu. So if you're on a boat and you're moving and you need to return home, you can stop the boat and do update home point. Oh, wait. Would that update the home point to where the drone is? That's not what you would want. No, I don't think so. It can't chase you. That's the bottom line. You would need to fly it home manually. Nicedex, you seem to think you know something about this HD system in the X20 HD. Oh, good point, Nicedex. Thank you for that. Nicedex points out that the HD system is only in the X20 HD, which we don't have a price for yet. It will be more expensive than the X20 that we were just looking for. Good point. Good point. Yoni Musher, thanks for a $5 super chat. Yoni says, how can I know all of your product suggestions? Like, if only there was a website where you could find all of JB's product suggestions in one place, like this one, my website, the Ultimate FPV Shopping List, with all my product suggestions updated continuously, at least once every 3 months. No, more than that. Ha ha! I wish that were true. Updated as often as possible, but to try and help you make good buying decisions. I like to say that there are good products that aren't on this webpage, because if I put all the good products on this webpage, then there would be too many and you'd get overwhelmed. Why is that crossed out? Just take it. Just don't cross it out. Just take it off the webpage. You don't need a strike through. What is this, MySpace? You don't strike through. Give me a break. Why would you do that? Okay, get that over to the web team. That doesn't need to be like that. I was saying, there are good products that aren't on this page, but the idea is to home in on solid products that you can trust if you're not sure what to get. Thank you for the opportunity to plug my website, Yoni Musher. Eric LaPlante, thanks for a $5 super chat and another $5 super chat. Can I add pre-arm or redundancy to turtle mode in Betaflight, like holding down a momentary switch? Yeah, Eric, if you have pre-arm mode activated, then it will also apply to turtle mode. You will need to pre-arm turtle mode. So you'll activate turtle mode, hold the pre-arm switch, flip the arm switch. Pre-arm will work on both arming and turtle mode. It's the same. Josh Fisk, thank you for a $2 super chat. Will DJI stop updates to goggles and air unit vistas? Josh, no one can know for sure what the future will hold. DJI has said that they will keep manufacturing the air unit and the vista through their manufacturing partner, which everyone assumes to be Caddx, since Caddx has been their manufacturing partner already. There's no indication. Why would they stop firmware updates while Caddx was still manufacturing the units? So we can't know for sure, but what people are telling us is that production of these units is going to continue. Now, I do think that probably we will not see the same pace of development that we saw when the V1 goggle and air unit came out. There were fast and furious firmware updates like you wouldn't believe. And then they kind of stopped. And then the DJI drone came out, and people were like, oh, that's what they were working on. I doubt that we will see the same pace of development of firmwares. I'll know that they're serious when the SD card slow error gets fixed. Well, I guess the air unit's being discontinued. Maybe the new one won't have that error, but... Toxic FPV, thank you for a $5 super chat. Will the TBS Retro Kit work for Tracer? The TBS Retro Kit. What is that? The Crossfire Nano Retrofit Kit. I would not assume that it would. I would not assume that the internals of the Tracer were compatible with the Retrofit Kit. They might be. I would ask TBS support about that before, but you can, yeah, I wouldn't assume, but it might be. David Campbell, thanks for a $10 super chat. Do you think DJI will come out with a new controller for their FPV drone or allow the old controller to work with it? The new controller doesn't work well for pinchers. Nope. David, I do not think they will come out with a new controller. I don't think they'll do that. I would lay money that this is the controller they developed and they're going to stick with it. Why would they develop a new one or allow the old controller to work with it? Nope. The old controller doesn't support 2.4 gigahertz anyway, and it doesn't support OcuSync 3.0. So I do not think that either of those two things are likely to happen at all. Floppy Props, do they make a conversion kit for Tracer? Do they make a conversion kit for Tracer? That's the question. TBS Tracer Retro. Yeah, they make a... Oh, very nice. Thank you for that. So they make a Tracer retrofit kit. Why? So that's what you should use. Yeah. But the question, I guess, might be if you already own the Crossfire kit. Well, you could give it a try, but you could also just spend $7 on the tracer kit. Thank you for that tip. All right. Any thoughts? Coelho FPV wants to know. Oh, hang on. Archimedes says it works. The board is the same. I got the kit to switch tracer to micro size. Archimedes in the Discord says that the Crossfire conversion kit will work with tracer. I cannot personally verify that, but Archimedes says it's true. Ryzix in the Discord says, I'm running the Zing 2207 2750 kV motors. I was wondering if I decide to set the variable PWM frequency, my range will be 16 kilohertz to 48 kilohertz. Is that too low for my motor size in kV? No, not at all. Give it a try. The bottom line is give it a try and see how the outcome is. For now, I don't think there are general guidelines about that. You just look for hot motors, look for weird sounds from the motors. But in general, I think that having lower PWM frequency at low throttle is going to give better handling for most people. Coelho FPV, thanks for $5 super chat. Any thoughts on the new Maytech H743 Slim and when Betaflight might have it in the Betaflight configurator? The Maytech H743 Slim. What is that? Let's have a look at it. Maytech makes some cool stuff. What have they come up with today? $13 PWM outputs. Holy crap. I guess this must be... With 13 PWM outputs, I assume it's for, like, airplanes. Wow. Got a lot of outputs there. Yeah, RG Pilot and Betaflight. It says Betaflight Maytech H743. Is it there already? It suggests that it's there. Firmware flasher. Okay. We go into firmware flasher. Let's look for it. Betaflight 428 Maytech H743. Is it there? No. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable show unstable releases. I'm going to change to development. And I'm going to change to Betaflight 430 development release, and I'm going to look for it. There it is, Maytech H743. So it's going to come in Betaflight 430. And if you want it today, you have to flash a nightly build, which is not the best idea as it could contain a bug or safety issue. But it looks like it's coming in Betaflight 430. That's the answer. Travel with camera. I don't have a cold. I just have allergies, and it's getting to be springtime here in Tennessee. And that means if I don't keep up with my allergy meds, then I get snuffly. This life. You're welcome. Griffin Hazeman says, I'm trying to set up my failsafe. I turned Australian there for a minute. I'm trying to set up my failsafe in clean flight, but when I test it by turning off the transmitter while the drone is armed, nothing happens and the motors keep spinning. Griffin, the number one reason for that is that your receiver is not indicating to the flight controller that failsafe has happened. So what receiver are you using? And have you set the receiver to no pulses or cut? Or have you set it to fixed positions? That's the reason for that. Archimedes says, oh, he wants to use the Crossfire retrofit to retrofit the Tracer. Archimedes is now walking back his claim that the board is the same. So. Nemesis FPV says, what is the best voltage per cell to land at? Never let your battery go below 3.0 volts per cell, ever. And then from there, you can work out where to land, because what you'll find is that somewhere around 3.5 volts per cell, you start to get a ton of voltage sag. Like if you fly at 3.5 volts per cell, you're going to feel that the motors are a little weaker if you're paying attention, but you'll still be able to fly. And somewhere around 3.4 volts per cell, 3.3 volts per cell, all of a sudden the battery will just go and just as soon as you hit the throttle, it's just like, help me. So I think that around 3.5 volts per cell under load is where I like to land. And then after I land, the battery kind of slowly recovers to maybe 3.7 volts per cell, 3.6 perhaps. If you're very gentle on the throttle, you can fly it lower. You can fly it down 3.5, 3.4, 3.3. If you're doing like a long distance cruiser or an airplane where you're very easy on the throttle, you can go closer to 3.0 without the battery sagging out. But you have to be very careful. One of the problems is that the cells are not perfectly balanced. So you could have one cell at 3.1 volts per cell and another cell at 3.4 and another at 3.6. That's an extreme example. That would be a very unhealthy battery. But let's say hypothetically that happened. So as soon as you're seeing an average cell voltage of, let's say, 3.4 volts per cell, but you don't know that you've got one cell down at like 3.1 or 3.2. And as soon as you hit the throttle, that cell goes below 3.0 and suddenly the whole battery voltage craps out. Because once a cell goes below 3.0 under load, it very quickly just goes straight to zero. So you go right from 15 volts to 12 volts. Just, and then you're in trouble. So I would say stop at around 3.5 volts per cell at a lowest. Now, what about a tiny whoop, says Me Drone. A tiny whoop, the little 350 milliamp hour 1S packs that you use on tiny whoops, you got to just ride those things hard and put them away wet. Okay, don't put them away wet. Put them at stored voltage. A tiny whoop battery, you got to run it down to 3.1 or even 3.0 volts, or your flight time is just going to be terrible. Most tiny whoop batteries, you start at 4.35 volts per cell, and as soon as you take off, they're at like 3.8. They're just like, I can't do this. And you're like, I charged you to 4.35. What is wrong with you? I'm sorry. I have terrible internal resistance. I was never any good. At least I was cheap. And so you got to fly them down to 3.0. Who cares? And then as soon as you get off the throttle, they bounce back to 3.8. And they're like, I could go again. And you're like, no, you can't. You get to the locker room and take a shower. You're not going back out there. Now, really good tiny whoop batteries, like the Newbie Drone Nitro Nectar Gold, they don't have as much sag. You can still run them down to 3.0. Yeah. You got tiny whoop batteries, you got to run them down as close to 3.0 as you can get them. The flip side is that tiny whoops, they sag, the battery sags as soon as you take off, and then it just kind of stays sagged. So with a 5-inch quad, you can be cruising at 3.5 volts, 3.4 volts per cell, and then you do a punch out and it sags out and you're at 3.0. But with a tiny whoop, if you're cruising at 3.2 volts per cell, unless you just do a full throttle punch and hold it there, it's probably going to stay above 3.0. They don't tend to vary as much, I think. Maybe it's because they have one cell. Anyway, that's my guideline. Sync happens. I have battery warning at 3.5 volts per cell and low battery, like critical threshold at 3.3. Jolly Monster keeps in the Discord keeps trying to get me to talk about Vanover's FetTech build. Jolly Monster, I haven't flown it. I would like to say that if Vanover flies it and likes it, then it probably is decent. It's probably pretty good. Like, Vanover's probably got a good tune on it that he likes. Vanover's quads have always flown amazing. I was surprised that Vanover switched to FetTech. Not that there's anything wrong with FetTech, but Vanover was... He was on Flight 1 for a while. And he switched off of Flight 1 to Brain FPV, in part because he couldn't get parts. He just couldn't get him parts, Flight 1. So he needed spares and he couldn't get them. And now he switched to FetTech. Like, what's the motivation there? I don't know. But Crunk says he has the Vanover FetTech build, and he put his 46i tune on it, and it flies perfectly, which is a good endorsement. Yeah. Fly High FPV says I missed his $5 super chat. Did I? Did I? Or have I just not gotten to it yet? Nope, I just haven't gotten to it yet. I just haven't got to it yet. Mike Bergman, the reason he left Flight 1 is that, I mean, I'm not trying to spill the tea here, but he loved how Flight 1 flew. These are my words, not his. I don't mean to speak for him, but this is what I remember. Is he loved how it flew, but he needed parts to build quad. Like, Vanover goes to a race, and he's got, 10, 15, 20 quads. I don't know. It's a lot. He literally just has a stack of quadcopters that he brings to the race. He needed spare parts to build quads for races, and they just kept not getting it to him. And he was like, all right, well, I'm out of here. Doesn't matter how good you fly. So. Fly High FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. Would you sell your DJI V1 or V2 if you had both? I bought the V2 for video out, but it doesn't exist. Spectator mode is garbage. Which would you sell if you had both? Fly High, that's a tough call. Here's the problem. As of today, for an FPV pilot, there is almost no reason to have the Goggle V2 over the V1. When used with the air unit and the Vista, the V2 has no additional functionality, except that it can be used with 6S batteries, and the V1 technically cannot. It only goes up to 17 volts. Okay, that's hardly a deal breaker. So you could sell the V2 and be happy. But between the V1 and the V2, if they were going to drop firmware support for one or the other, which would it be? It'd be the V1. Now, as of today, the firmware on the V1 and the V2 is basically identical. The only difference is that the V2 also has firmware for the DJI FPV drone. But once you put it into the FPV mode, the air unit mode, it basically acts like a V1. So it seems like the hardware is similar enough between the V1 and the V2 that they can develop them at the same time. And as long as they're making firmware for the V2, then they could make firmware for the V1. But we can't know that for sure. I think if I had a working V2 with no activation issues, I would probably sell the V1. I would get a little bit less money for, not that much less. V1s are, people just are trying to get DJI goggles. They're out of stock everywhere. You're probably going to get close to the same price for a V1 as a V2, assuming they're in equal condition. I would probably sell the V1, and on the off chance that DJI drops firmware support, it'll be for the V1, not the V2. Although I don't think that's super likely, but I can't read the future. Ciati, the V2 does not do video out. The V2 works with the smart controller, I think. I haven't checked that, but I believe it does. Doesn't the V2 have better resolution than the V1? Asks Ryzex in the Discord. No, not when used with the air unit and the Vista. Both the V1 and the V2 goggle have an 810p resolution screen, but the air unit and the Vista only send a 720p feed. The DJI drone sends 810p. If you have the V2 goggle and you're using it with the air unit of the Vista, you are not getting 810p 144 hertz. You are getting the exact same image as you were getting with the V1. Gregory Carr, thank you for a $5 super chat. Tom on Tape, thanks for a $5 super chat. Looking at your site and drones, can I assume the DJI Goggles V2 are compatible with anything the Goggles V1 are, at least up to today? Yes, you can. Assuming that you're able to activate them, which you probably will be able to, but not always. Some people are having problems. Greg Boughton, thanks for a $5 super chat. Leo G, thanks for a $2 super chat. Everything is out of stock. Welcome to FPV, Leo. Everything is out of stock forever. The pandemic happened, and then it got worse. Now there's a global chip shortage. It's gotten worse. Just, you remember your great grandparents, and they would say, oh, I remember in the Depression, we had to line up to get a loaf of bread. We would keep the scraps from our table and we'd cook them into a stew. Oh, we knew how to make things last. Now you're going to be saying to your grandkids, I remember in 2021, I had to go on eBay to get a RTX 3090, and I paid 3 times retail price, but then I had the fastest graphics card money could buy. Oh. Martin Fuchs, thank you for a $5 super chat. I need to replace the coaxial cable connecting the Vista to the Nebula Pro Cam. Ordered a longer one. How do I do that? Martin, I've never done a tutorial about how to open up the camera, but basically there's screws on the back of the camera. The back of the camera comes off, and then the cable is right there, and it just pops off. And then as far as the Vista goes, there is a retaining bar on top of the cable connector. You take a screw out, you pop off the retaining bar, and you pop it off. Yeah. Aaron Phillips says there's not really a shortage, just demand is high. I don't think that's true, Aaron. That's not what I've heard. What I heard is there have been some fires and so forth that have taken production of silicon offline. But in addition, and this was the most I learned this from Linus Tech Tips. So, the source for information about technology. What he said is that a lot of manufacturers going into the pandemic expected there to be a decrease in demand. And they planned their production ahead. And so they didn't order a lot of silicon. And as a result, the factories that make the silicon kind of ramped down. And then it turns out that everybody living at home, not going out, using Zoom, it turns out that demand went way up instead of going down. So there is some truth to the statement that demand is high is one of the reasons there's a chip shortage. But it is also a supply side issue, that production, both because the production facilities didn't anticipate the demand and therefore ramped down, and then they can't just ramp up instantly. But also there have been like some plants caught fire or something, and there's a lot going on. Todd Tube thinks I missed his super chat, but he did fall asleep for 5 minutes. Where's your super chat, Todd Tube? I need a 4-in-1 ESC with a 5-volt BEC for an iNav build. Todd Tube, Hobby Wing. Todd Tube, Hobby Wing, 60 amp. That's the one. Yep. And then also, as Paul Walker points out, cryptocurrency boomed. So it was not profitable to mine Bitcoin for a while. For most people, to mine Bitcoin, unless you were doing ASIC-based miners, which anyway. So it was not able to mine them again. And then all you son of a bitch crypto miners bought up all the RTX or the GTX with the frickin' 3080s, whatever it is, RTX, right? They bought up all the frickin' RTX 30 series, and now we can't get them. I remember when the 30s came out, and I was like, ha 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 ha, RTX 3070 has 27 times the performance of a 2080 at only 25% higher price. Oh, you chumps who bought a 2080, you look dumb now, boy. You got egg on your face. And then all of a sudden, all the crypto miners bought up the 30 series. You can't get them, except on eBay for like 3 times retail cost. And all those people who bought the 2080s are like, oh yeah, who's laughing now? You son of a. Zach King, thanks for a $4 super chat. 10 Fantic, thanks for a $5 super chat. Do you think Betaflight hardware is more future-proof than KISS and FetTech? Seems like Betaflight advances faster than KISS. 10 Fantic, the thing that Betaflight has going for it is that there's tons of different manufacturers all making different hardware. So like this Maytech Slim flight controller somebody asked about earlier in the stream. The hell is this thing? What even is this? Wiring. Got a bunch of frickin' PWM outputs. What is it even for? I don't even know what this is. Specifications. Got a barometer on board. 7 UARTs. 13 PWM outputs. You run 13 servos off this damn thing. Why? I don't know. Who cares? What if you want to run 13 servos and you want to use a KISS flight controller? Sorry. Nope, can't do that. We don't have that. So that's what Betaflight's got going for it, is just, it can just run, any hardware can run it. I don't know if it's advancing. I know it's for a wing, Todd. I know. It's for RG-Pilot. That's correct. Yeah. So Betaflight, I don't know if it's more future-proof. I'm not sure I would say it's more future-proof, but it does have more diversity. Let's put it that way. X-Raptor Claw 85 says, thank you for a $5 super chat. Have you had a chance to try the Baby Hawk 2 HD? I have not, and so I don't think anything about it. I don't love it or hate it. Emacs makes good stuff. I just haven't had a chance to try it. Patrick Mans, thank you for a $5 super chat. I can't get the Betaflight menu to come up in the goggles with the proper stick position. Endpoints are correct. So Patrick, you're sure that your endpoints are 1,000 to 2,000? Did you change the stick low threshold? If your endpoints go 1,000 to 2,000 and you change the stick low threshold to 1,000, which is a common mistake, you need your stick low threshold to be a little bit higher than your actual endpoint. So if your endpoint is 1,000, put your stick low threshold at 1005 or 1010. That's what I would check. Look in the receiver tab as you move the sticks and make sure that the sticks are going above and below the stick low and the stick high threshold. If you need more help, Patrick Mans, feel free to email me. Oh my God, we're caught up on super chats. That only took an hour. Oh. Jeremiah Davis points out that you can also run Betaflight on KISS hardware. That is true. I mean, I don't know why you would want to do that, but that is true. Kind of like, it's kind of wrong. Damn. What kind of person can't make a White Claw last a whole live stream? Kurt Dorfel says, I just bought the Baby Hawk 2 HD. Betaflight will not see input. I think I've tried everything I could think of. Kurt, the Baby Hawk 2 HD came pre-configured, so it should be fine. The first thing I would have you check is in the goggle, in the DJI goggle, check whether you have in the device menu. Hang on. I'm assuming you're using the DJI controller for the record. Hang on. Look what I have. Look what I have for you. Stock footage. S-Bus Baud Fast. Yep. Okay, so here's this is stock footage I have for use in my videos. You're going to go down to the settings menu. You're going to go down to the device menu. You're going to go to protocol. You're going to get this warning. And then you'll have the choice to change protocol between normal and S-Bus Baud Fast. And if that is not matching what the flight controller expects, then you won't get any movement in the controller. My guess is that's incorrect. Greg Boughton was told by an online store today that the DJI V2 goggles that came with my DJI FPV will not work with Caddx. They are wrong, Greg. They are wrong. That is incorrect. They are wrong. They're giving you bad information. I'm sorry that they did that. That is just categorically incorrect. I don't know why this is so freaking hard for people to understand. It is so simple. It's so simple to verify whether this is true or not. I don't know why people are giving this information. It is not true. The V2 goggle absolutely does work with the Caddx Vista. I don't know why people can't get this information correct. It does. I'm sorry. I mean, I hate to throw them under the bus. But they're just wrong. If that's what they told you. Never rule out the possibility that you're wrong and you misunderstood what they said. Sorry. That does happen. I've had people email me and they're like, you are not going to believe what so-and-so told me. Listen to this. He said that if you are using Betaflight, you cannot, get this, you cannot have a quadcopter. That's right. He told me, Mark Spatz told me that Betaflight does not support quadcopters. Can you believe that? I'm like, I don't think Mark said that. No. I mean, I made that example up, but a lot of people are saying that. A lot of people are saying that it doesn't support V2, the Cat Vista. It's not true. It's just not true. Like, I'm totally doing it right now. I'm doing it. Eirik Toft wants to know, is there any teaser info you can talk about the Flow State documentary, or maybe a taste of something we've not seen yet? Unfortunately, no, Eirik. I would love to leak a whole bunch of shit, but I am taking my lead from James Christensen. James has had a documentary on Netflix before. He knows what he's doing, and when he says, whatever you do, do not leak any information about this film other than what we've already shown, I take him seriously. In fact, we did this preview, this test screening this weekend, and at the test screening, he said to the people who were there, it was very few people. Mostly it was people who were either in the film or worked on the film, right? And he said, listen, don't talk about anything that's in the film. You can give general impressions, but don't even, give an outline of the film. For whatever reason, he says it's really important that we control the way the information about the film gets out. So, unfortunately, no. I hope that the time will come when you can see it in more detail. Rotor Riot Rampage is the next place I know for a fact that it's going to be shown. Depending on the timing, I would also like to do some private showings. The edit is still... The edit is 95% done, I think. At this test screening, I still saw a couple places where I was like, I feel like we could edit that a little better. But hopefully there'll be a few more screenings soon. What if no streaming services pick it up? I'll be sad. I wanted to make a film like this just because I love FPV. And my original vision for the film was that I want to do something like Lords of Dogtown, which is a skateboarding documentary. I want to do something like Lords of Dogtown for FPV, that people who aren't in FPV can watch and can feel like they're a part of it and can get excited about it. So if it doesn't get picked up by a streaming service, it will turn out to have been an extremely expensive passion project, but I'll still feel really good about it and will be glad it exists. What was the general reaction in the screening? Very positive. People love it, of course. Yeah. Okay. Raptor Claw 85, thank you for $5 more in the super chat. Looking for my first 5-inch digital bind and fly, more into freestyle than anything else. Recommendation: Money No Object. Raptor Claw, you say Money No Object, and yet it's hard for me to think of something better than like the iFlight Nazgul V2 is only, well, it's $200 for the analog version. It's not super expensive and it's not super premium, but it's so freaking good for the money. So if money's no object, just buy 2 of them instead of spending $600 on something else. If money really is no object, then you could get like a bespoke build. You could go to Catalyst Machine Works and say, build me a Shocker 5-inch. You could go, write these names down. Catalyst Machine Works will build you a custom quad. Crunked, right? Crunked is right here in the chat. Crunked probably builds you something beautiful. Rotor Riot has pre-built quads, like high-end, like you could just get Ladrib's quad. You're going to pay a little bit more for those. They're going to come with a custom tune. They're going to be like lovingly hand-built by an artisan in Orlando, Florida, or Houston, Texas. If it were my money, I mean, I love those guys. They make a great product. But I would probably just buy like a Nazgul HD for whatever, $350, and have money spare for spare parts. They're not as good as those bespoke builds, but they're so adequate. They're so adequate, and especially as a beginner, you're not going to give a 16-year-old kid a freaking Ferrari. He's not going to appreciate it. He's just going to total it. Right? So especially if you're like, I'm looking for my first 5-inch, don't spend $500 on a custom bespoke build. Even if money's no object, you're wasting your money. Sorry, Crunked. Sorry, Catalyst Machine Works. Sorry, Rotor Riot. Buy something that is adequate. Beat the shit out of it. Crash it, lose it, destroy it, and maybe later get something a little more premium. That's my take. Thank you, Flow Wolf FPV, for $10. Thank you, Greg Boughton, for $10, and Down and Dirty Dealing for $5. Greg Boughton has a super chat, but he didn't type it in, and now we don't know what it was. Greg Boughton, what was your message, dude? Cyprus D. Hobblicious says in the Discord, when I take off, the quad seems to list to the left, so I counter it with a little bit of roll right. It almost feels that the right motors are underpowered. Okay, so let's get rid of this misconception. When you take off and the quad drifts to the left, people say, oh, the right motors are underpowered. No. The flight controller controls how the quadcopter moves. Until you get to the point where one of the motors is at 100%. If a motor is underpowered, the flight controller will cause that motor to spin faster to equalize the thrust that it's outputting. So if you just take off and the quad drifts to the left, it has nothing to do with a motor being underpowered. If you go full throttle and the quad goes yee and kind of cants to the side, that's maybe a motor that's not responding fast enough or not making full power. But just hovering, if the quad is drifting, that's 100% a control. It's usually a controller issue. It means your channels are not centered in the controller, and the flight controller detects that you are telling the quadcopter to roll to the side. So go into the receiver tab and make sure your channels are centered. That's what I would do. If you're in auto level mode, your accelerometer could be miscalibrated. Good point, Don Lads and a few others. Could air mode fix this? No, air mode has nothing to do with this. Air mode adds authority at 0 throttle. If you are not at 0 throttle, air mode doesn't come into play. Thank you, Drones Unlimited, for a $25 super chat to thank us for sharing the hologram drone in our news live stream. Thank you. It was an honor seeing my logo flying through the air. Thank you for the donation, Drones Unlimited. Jason Hind, thank you for a $5 super chat. Any thoughts on the 7-inch Flywoo Mr. Croc 4S? Is it able to run 6S? Motors, flight controller, and ESC seem to support an air unit. Might be the only issue. So let's look at the 7-inch Flywoo Mr. Croc. Does it come in a 6S version? Apparently not. Oh, is this the frame only? This is the frame only. 7-inch bind and fly. There we go. Receiver option, plug and play, equipment options, choose options. It does seem like it only comes in 4S. So then, excuse me. Then the question would be whether it has a voltage regulator for the air unit. What flight controller is on it? That would be what we would need to figure out. Excuse me. I'm not sure that's going to be easy to figure out right this minute. How about we look at the manual? Oh, down. Oh, are you for real? Hey, Flywoo. Don't distribute your manual as a Word doc. Because, like, Word docs are super sketchy. Right? Let me get a macro. I don't want to open a Word doc. Give me a PDF, please. Can I have a PDF? Still doesn't seem to say. Goku F7 series F7 dual. Okay. Flywoo Goku F7 dual. So it says it's got a built-in 9-volt regulator. Is this one made for DJI? I don't think this is the right one. F7 dual. That's the one we want. Does this... Oh, aren't you fancy? It doesn't have a plug for DJI, though. This looks like the same one, though, because in the manual, it looks like it's got the same graphic here. Similar. Top, button, motor outputs. Yeah, this is the same one. So this one, does it have a plug for the air unit? That would be good to know. Let's see here. Motor, that's the ESC plug. No, it doesn't have a plug for the air unit, so they must be hardwiring it. Does it have a 9-volt regulator? 5-volt. 5-volt, 3.3-volt. 9-volt for VTX. So we can't know for sure. I would want to verify that they were using the 9-volt regulator for the air unit. If so, then you could run this on 6S. But here's the question. Why do you want to do that? Because the motors are going to be way too high kV. And so you're going to need to use like a motor output limit. Why not just run it on a 4S battery as intended? Yeah. I think you could do it, assuming that they wired the air unit to the 9-volt output, which they probably did, but I wouldn't want to risk frying the air unit. I would want to verify that. JT MacGyver in the Discord wants to know, why does Betaflight sometimes jump from 1194 to 2010 when setting endpoints with no way to reach an even 2000? JT, it is normal to see jumps of 3 or 4 microseconds, but going from 1194 to 2010 really surprises me. I would be curious what controller you have before I said more about that. What's your favorite GPS unit? WOM FPV wants to know. WOM, I couldn't pick one to be sure, but I would say that Maytech makes some of the best GPS units for FPV quads. They seem to be people in the iNav community seem to like them a lot, and they seem to have features like filtered 3.3 volt power and so forth that others don't. So I would probably put a Maytech on there. Yeah. Steady Eddie FPV, thank you for a $5 super chat, Eddie. I'm wiring an ESC to a flight controller. The ESC has 5 volt ground battery 1 2 3 4. The flight controller has 5 volt ground 1 2 3 4 current RX4. Which pin connects to the B on the ESC? Well, the B is presumably battery voltage, VBAT. The flight controller does not take VBAT. So if you put VBAT, if the flight controller only has 5 volt ground 1 2 3 4 current and RX4, you cannot feed that flight controller VBAT. It will fry. Do you leave that B out? The ESC has 5 volt ground. Yeah, so you would do 5 volt to 5 volt, ground to ground, 1 2 3 4 to 1 2 3 4. You would not have current sensing, which is disappointing. You would not use the B wire at all. That's the answer. Vincent Celis. I'm going to say Celis. Thank you for a $5 super chat. Vincent, thanks for your content. After watching hours and hours of your content, I successfully built and crashed my first quad. Have a White Claw on me. Yay. Don't encourage me. Israel Castellan says, dude, your impersonation of the batteries was gold. Would the Cricket 6S motors be enough to freestyle a Vista Shocker tank build from Catalyst? Sure. Yeah, for sure. Those Cricket motors are solid motors. Yeah, totally solid. On 5-inch props. 5-inch props? Yeah. But like I said when I reviewed the Shocker tank, in my opinion, that's better as a 6-inch build. I don't think they make it as a 6-inch build. The weight of the Shocker tank, if you weren't going to carry a GoPro, if you're just going to do DJI, it could be okay as a 5-inch build. I think the Shocker tank is better as a 6-inch build. How come the flight controller doesn't have battery input, says Kyle K. Good question. I don't know. What flight controller is it? He didn't say. Steady Eddie, what flight controller is that? Yeah, what flight controller doesn't have a VBAT input? How is it going to do, like, on-screen, how is it going to do battery voltage? Jason Hind says, when updating the TBS version of the Radiomaster TX16S, would I want to make sure the Crossfire folder stays on the SD card? Jason, what I would do is I would download the new SD card contents. I would, assuming that you don't have any like custom sounds or custom images, like model images, I would just wipe the contents of the SD card, put the new contents on, and then re-download TBS Agent Lite and reinstall it. It takes like 2 seconds to do, and it makes sure you're on the latest version of the TBS Lua script. We still don't know what flight controller Steady Eddie is using. I agree the Maytech M8Q is a good GPS. Grim FPV suggests the Maytech M8Q. I have the Maytech M8Q on my QAV-S 4-inch build, and on a lot of these 4-inch builds, you're lucky to get 5 or 6 sats. The Maytech M8Q gets 8 sats, so it's a little more. Not a lot more, but a little more. If I convert to TBS Crossfire, do I need a new VTX as well, says Willis Barrington. No, you don't need a new video transmitter. You need a new receiver. Thanks for being here, Abraham. Sorry I wasn't able to be here yesterday. Francis Bidzogo, thank you for a $5 Canadian $5 super chat. I don't want to buy another DJI goggle. How can I output HD from the DJI Goggle V1? Yeah, here's the answer. You ready for it? You're not going to like it. Here's the answer. That's the answer. That's the answer. You got to spend $750 on the smart controller. That is the only way right now to get HDMI out of the DJI Goggle V1 or the V2. That is the answer. That's what the pros are doing. Here, I posted on TikTok that I bought this. And people were like, he probably just got it from DJI. One guy was like that. I showed the wrong listing. I didn't want people to be like, oh, yeah, I thought you purchased it. I did, in fact, buy this. And I will say, I bought this. And then I found out that if you're a member of the DJI affiliate program, which for the DJI FPV drone release, I joined the DJI affiliate program because I'm like, you know what? A lot of people are going to buy the DJI drone from the DJI store. So let's join the affiliate program, right? Why miss out on that sweet, sweet affiliate money? Turns out that if you're a member of the DJI affiliate program, you get paid in store credit, not actual money. So I returned the smart controller to Amazon, and I bought one from the DJI store so I could use my affiliate money. Thanks, DJI. I just want to be able to live stream live video, and I think that's going to be really fun. Jeremiah Davis, thanks for a $5 super chat. Thanks for these streams. I have no friends that fly, and I look forward to talking with you guys. This is an amazing community. Jeremiah, see if there's a multi-GP chapter near you. There are many of them, and if there may be one near you, maybe not, but if so, it's a good way to hook up with people. Quad Dank, thanks for 10 Australian dollars, or dollary dues, as I like to call them. That's so insensitive. I don't mean to be insensitive to the Australians. Thanks, JB, for all your work helping people with problems and supporting new people coming into the hobby. Your patience is phenomenal. You answered my emails when I was new, so for that I say thanks. Thank you, Quad Dank. That's what I do. Some people have seen my late night email streams where I answer emails late at night, and let's let you guys come along. And some people have said, I didn't realize you had so many emails. I'm sorry. I don't feel that way. Not at all. That's what I like to do. It's made me some form of successful, and I'm happy to do it. So don't hesitate. Todd Tube says there is no way there's $750 worth of technology in the smart controller. Yeah, it's a total splurge. Like, I tell myself I'm going to live stream some flying, and in order to do that, I need this. It's a total splurge. It's one of those business expenses that if going back to my favorite tech channel, Linus Tech Tips, Linus is like, he started the channel, and his wife is the CFO. And he has to go through her. He's like, hey, honey, can we spend $70,000 making a gold Xbox controller? They actually did that. They spent $70,000 making a solid gold Xbox controller. And he had to be like, hey, honey, can we do this? And justify it to her. I don't have anybody to justify my purchasing decisions to. I'm just like, I think I want a smart controller. I'm going to live stream with it. And then I buy it. Eventually, I have no money. It's not yet, so far. So I'm excited to be able to try that out. But no, it's a lot of freaking money. If you're a professional, if you're like a Paul Nurkala and you need to be able to show the director of photography your footage, yes, it's totally worth $700. It's worth whatever. Anyway. Steady Eddie says it's a Hack RC and a T-Motor F4 flight controller. All right, I don't believe that the T-Motor F4 doesn't have VBAT input. Steady Eddie. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm going to watch me turn out to be wrong. No, look, Steady Eddie. Minus, minus, plus. That plus is VBAT. NC 4321 current RX. That plus is VBAT on the T-Motor F4. Unless there's another T-Motor F4. That plus is VBAT. I didn't think that at all. Greg Boughton, you already sent a super chat, I'm pretty sure. Greg Boughton, you need to hit the $ and then type the text. But look, Greg, I'm reading your message. I got your super chat. I'm reading your message. What's your question, Greg? We got 6 minutes till the stream ends. What's your question, my friend? What's the super chat? Do you think the FPV drone will be easier to repair once time goes on? Is that it? No, that's Gregory Carr's question. Gregory Carr, that's hard to say. If aftermarket parts become available, that will be very interesting. If I imagine that as time goes on, perhaps there will be more like tutorials about how to repair. For the time being, I don't think DJI is actually selling many spare parts. The drone is fundamentally not that easy to repair. If you watch some of the teardowns, it's fairly complicated. I think that the idea, it's so stupid because DJI advertised the FPV drone as it's modular and you can repair it. And if you look at a teardown, it's stupidly complicated and integrated. So I don't know if it'll get easier to repair, except in as much as things tend to get easier over time. But okay, I'm looking for this question, by the way. We also have a $50 super chat from Aaron Rowland. Thank you, Aaron. That's a massive super chat. Very generous. Super appreciate it. Aaron wants me to buy a case of whatever you want, so I don't have to drink White Claw on stream. If it gets $50 super chats, I'm going to keep drinking White Claw. Greg Boughton. Still trying to get your question. Greg Boughton, what's your question, man? You super chatted me and you couldn't get your question. I'm still waiting for you to type your question, bro. Type your question in the chat. Don't worry about the super chat. Just ask your question. Down and Dirty Dealing, thank you for a $5 super chat. I'm doing power line inspection with a Mavic Pro and a Mavic Zoom. I want to go FPV. What should I do? I've never flown manual or FPV. Down and Dirty Dealing, the first thing I want to say is that the Mavic Pro and the Mavic Zoom are 1,000% the right tool for that job. FPV drones are a terrible tool for power line inspection because what you want to do is you want to be able to hover and get close and look down at whatever you're inspecting. FPV drones are terrible at sitting still. They're great for moving. They're terrible at sitting still. Don't get an FPV drone for power line inspection, in my opinion. They're super fun, and they're the right tool for certain jobs, but not that job. How do you get into it? Get a controller. Get a controller and start practicing in the simulator. That's the actual answer. Practice acro mode in a simulator. Spend between let's say $80 and $150 on a controller, like the Radio Master TX16S, the Jumper T Lite. There's a whole bunch of other controllers you could get, and then just plug it into your computer and practice flying in the simulator until you start to be able to fly a little bit without crashing. Let's see here. Luis Delgado, thank you for a €10 super chat and a thank you sticker. Aaron Ciotti has started posting. Thank you for that, Ciotti, for reminding me we're getting close to the stream, the end of the stream. Aaron Ciotti has posted a link to his live stream. Ciotti comes on at 10 on his channel. He is going to be doing 4 giveaways today. NanoCam Roundup. Greg, just don't worry about the super chat, Greg. Just type the question. I can't tell if I'm being trolled now. Greg, forget about the super chat. Just type the question. It's too late. The live stream is almost over. Sorry about that. Well, guys, that's going to do it for the live stream. Thank you all for coming out. Thanks to everybody who left a super chat. Thanks to my patrons here in the Discord as well. And thanks to you guys for all your chats as well. Thanks for being here. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll be doing the FPV News with JB and It's Valenti. And back to our normal schedule, 1 p.m. on Sunday, 8 p.m. on Monday. Good luck, Siati. Have a great stream. If you guys want to keep going into the night with a live stream, go on over to Siati's stream. He's posting the link right there in the chat. But that's going to do it for me. It's 10 o'clock. We're out of here. Happy flying all you guys.